Hello everyone, my name is Neil and welcome to Silver Threads. An eldritch horror considers you their best friend, by virtue of you being able to perceive their true form and not going insane. One day they ask how you became so jaded that not even indescribable cosmic horror phases you. Our first entry is by Rivet Heart. There was a monster on the front step. Rachel blinked, but it remained, hunched over on the porch, still there in all its disturbing glory. It had one eye. No, it had many eyes, all blinking and shifting and looking here and there, but not visible all at the same time. They were laced above a mouth that stretched out in a fierce grin. At the same time, it drooped in a heavy frown, all perched on a round, clay-like head with cauliflower ears. Not the ailment mind, but actual cauliflower, growing from the sides of the skull and flowering quite nicely. The body below was thin and fat at the same time, undulating between weight-like waves licking the shore. Fingers made of bone clicked together anxiously, with far more phalanges than were necessary. From the waist down, the body fell into darkness, robed in something that was blacker than black, aside from a pair of human-looking bare feet sticking out. Its toenails were painted bright pink and seemed to be conversing among themselves. "It's not Halloween yet," she said, gripping the door tightly. The creature said nothing, just staring at her. "That's a really impressive costume, but you're 5 days early, I think. It's only Tuesday, so..." "You're not dead." The voice that came from the monster was soft and confused. There was no scratch or echo or blood-curdling edge, just a voice that could belong to any adult human, wavering with shock and disbelief. Rachel glanced behind herself just to make sure. Nope, no dead body on the floor of the kitchen, where she'd been working when the being had knocked. "No," she agreed. "I think I'm very much alive." But how?" She turned back to the horror and scratched absently at her cheek, trying to decide which eye to gaze into. It kept appearing and disappearing, so she settled on gazing into the middle of the creature's round head. "I don't know. I mean, am I supposed to be?" "All who gaze upon my visage fall, as is the way." The creature gesticulated wildly, flailing its arms, 2 long fingers clicking together. "Yet you do not shudder, you do not flinch. How can you withstand the horror that is I, formidulosis, and not melt into a puddle of your own entrails?" Flecks of foam gathered along the edges of its dual mouths, and Rachel took a step back to avoid being spit on. "By Cthulhu, it's unheard of!" "Oh, you like Lovecraft?" She latched onto the only thing she understood in the odd rant. "I find him a bit hard to read sometimes, but I just got the Call of Cthulhu game on my laptop, and I'm looking forward to playing it on Saturday." She trailed off as the creature tilted its head and stared at her in something akin to astonishment. "You know of the old ones?" "Yes?" Rachel took a step forward, now that there was no otherworldly face foam flying around, and gave the creature a good look. Its shoulders were trembling, and it began clicking its fingers together. The bright pink toenails had fallen silent. Had the thing been human, she would have said it looked almost anxious? A bit lost, perhaps. "Would you like a cup of tea?" The creature tilted its head, considering. Then it nodded. Rachel motioned for it to follow her into the kitchen and led the way. She could hear it behind her, each footfall echoed by a soft shwip, shwip of the 2 black robe dragging across the hard wood. The electric kettle was already full of water, so she plugged it in and turned to watch the oddity as it carefully entered her kitchen and looked about, as though waiting for the china to attack it. "Please have a seat, Mr. Formidable." She motioned to the kitchen table, then flushed as she realized her work was covering nearly every inch. Formidulosis, it corrected, watching with curiosity as she stacked papers and shoved them to the side, clearing a space for two to sit. What is this parchment about? Are you a scholar? Oh, no. Rachel turned to the counter as the kettle began to hiss and spit. She pulled down 2 mugs and, after a moment's deliberation, decided on chamomile for both of them. The creature sat awkwardly on one of the chairs and watched as she bustled about, grabbing a teddy bear-shaped container of honey from the cabinet and juggling it alongside the 2 mugs over to the table. Its many, many eyes drifted to the stacks of paper, and it could see lines filled with different types of handwriting, and scrolls of paper printed with blue lines that were ragged on the edge and cramped with ugly letters. Not a scholar? It prompted as it took the mug. Nah. Rachel fell into her own seat, focusing once more on the center of its face. I'm a teacher. That is a noble position, perhaps protected by the new gods. That could be why you did not flail and melt into a puddle of... my own entrails. Yeah, let's not think about that part. Rachel took a sip. Don't know about these new gods, but I can tell you. She rested a hand on top of the nearest stack of homework to be graded. Teaching middle school, you see some weird shit. As Formidulosis left that night, stomach full of tea and arms full of what his new friend Rachel called the best of Lovecraft, seriously, let me know what you think of the temple. It pondered if there were others of these middle school teachers in the world to befriend. Our next entry is by Ruler of Gummy Bears. Philha and I lounged on the couch watching some trashy reality TV show the same way we'd been doing for the last few days. We'd only known each other for a short while, but he seems to have taken a real liking to me. He's not left my place since appearing. I feel my phone vibrating in my pocket, so I take it out and put it on the table. I don't mind. Once you get past all his tentacles and teeth and the way too many eyes, Phil's actually a really nice creature. My phone vibrates again, so I put it on silent. In fact, my life would be very, very difficult if it weren't for him. We share a bowl of popcorn, which Phil kindly prepared for us, and laugh as the rich housewife dumps a drink on another poor, unsuspecting sod. Phil laughs so hard that one of his tentacles knocks the bowl over, spilling popcorn all over the carpet. He curses in that chilling language of his. It's no wonder they call me a horror. You really shouldn't let them talk about you like that, I say. The stigma against Eldritch individuals really should change. This isn't the 1800s anymore. It is what it is, Phil replies. He has such a positive attitude. It's inspiring. I'll go get the vacuum. Nah, let's finish watching and then I'll clean it up. I made the mess, so I'll clean it. Well, okay, but after this episode. Grudgingly, Phil agrees. We fall quiet, listening to the shrill screams on the TV. The woman is upset because her peanut sauce tastes too much like peanuts. Hey, Kelly? Phil asks. Yeah? Don't take this question the wrong way, but why are we friends? I glance at Phil, blinking in surprise. Because you're kind, considerate, and just an all-around great person. Well, that's it. I'm not a person, I'm a monster. You're not a monster. I know, but you know what I mean. I'm pretty scary to look at, but you're not scared of me at all. Beauty is only skin deep anyway. It's what's inside that counts. And there's nothing scary inside of you at all. You don't know that. I've eaten lots of questionable things. That brings a laugh out of me and I bump him affectionately. You know what I mean. He pauses, settling back into the couch. I'm amazed by how well he can manipulate his extra bulk. He looks at my phone, then looks back at me. You know your phone has been flashing non-stop with messages. Yeah. Are you going to answer them? It's from Vincent.
Oh.
I know I shouldn't, but I sneak a peek at the latest message.
Last chance before you die alone. Nobody else is ever gonna love you. You're over 30 now and can't even have kids. Who's gonna want a defective model? Only I could accept you. Your own family didn't even want to keep you. I'm the only one who's nice enough to care about you. You'll never find anyone else like me, and if you don't finally see reason again, then I'm gonna leave just like your fucking parents. And there'll be no one to save you this time.
Another flashes just as I finish reading the first.
Fuck you then, you crazy psycho bitch, I never loved you anyway.
Tears burn in my eyes. I don't know why I allow his words to hurt me when I should know better now. But his painful scars run deeper than rationality. Gently, a tentacle covers my hands, blocking the phone. Another points to the TV.
That lady's thrown a shoe at her neighbor, and now the show's ended.
I force a laugh, shaking my head free from my thoughts. So ridiculous, right?
I think I'm starting to get it, he says. Are we ready to clean up now?
I nod and offer my phone to Phil. He tosses it into his mouth with a sickening crunch and swallows my nightmare into his abyss. Our last entry is by Sadness Laughs. Melissa had grown quite comfortable around her eldritch roommate, the two watching TV, their usual Saturday activity. Melissa popped open a beer, slouching back into the cushions of the couch, only to take her glance off the TV, her eyes meeting the strange creature that hovered above the leather couch. The creature was a swirling mass of flesh, its face changing with each passing second. The faces were that of pained humans, flashing the face of people who had horrific deaths, each face representing the last moment of horror before their untimely demise. Under the changing faces was a long, thin body, almost two-dimensional. She studied the creature for a moment before letting out a sigh. "What's wrong? You look upset. Did you look at yourself in the mirror again?" Melissa teased, watching the thin horror anxiously twiddle its bony fingers.
No, I always look away from mirrors. I was just wondering why you aren't affected by my appearance. I'm not complaining, it's just strange that you shrug off my appearance with such ease. Most humans die at the sight of my face. Half of my faces are probably from the people I have encountered. So what made you so cold? What broke you in such a way that you feel nothing?
Melissa watched the hand of the creature as it pointed to its face. Its current face was that of a man, his eyes bugging out, nearly popping from its sockets, his mouth agape in pale fear. Melissa reached for her can, taking a long sip of the bitter booze, downing it until the can was about a quarter full. "Ellie, I have witnessed horrors that you can't even imagine. Those faces of yours are nothing compared to the fearsome monsters that I used to see. Your faces don't speak and torment me like the others used to. After my years of dealing with those horrors, I became the shell of a person you see before you. I wouldn't wish my fate on anyone, no matter how evil." Ellie, the Eldritch Monster, was quiet. It knew its friend was cold, but this cold? The monster felt something that it had never felt before. Pity. Ellie slid closer towards their friend, wrapping their arm around her shoulder, pulling Melissa into a hug. The monster was silent for a few minutes, just embracing their friend, trying to soak up some pain that had seated itself in the pits of her heart. Eventually, Melissa pushed it away. "I never knew you had such a hard life. When I first came to consume your soul, I thought you were just a regular person. A normal human, but I was so wrong. I never thought I would have a friend. Us monsters aren't exactly social types. Whatever did this to you, Melissa, I promise I will walk all the realms to kill them for you." "I don't want you to kill them. It's all in the past. It hurt at the time, by now it's over. Thank you though, Ellie, I appreciate it. It hasn't been bad having some company either. Now, can we just watch some TV?"
Sure, some TV sounds nice.
Melissa turned her attention back to the TV, flicking on that typical 3 p.m. afternoon crap that wasn't good enough for the big time. Today's mess of media was a crime show based solely around murders that have taken place in Antarctica. Seems Melissa had found a winner today, an actual splendid show. She snuggled into the couch, turning to her friend who seemed less excited. Melissa again sighed, turning off the TV as she eyed the monster. What's wrong?
Well, it's just, I can't even imagine something more horrifying than myself. Whatever you went through must have been worse than hell. Us Eldritch Monsters are created from the fears of the surrounding humans. We are indescribable messes of flesh that can make anyone who witnesses us go insane. So you're telling me that whatever you experienced was worse than that?
Much worse. The horrors I went through make you seem tame in comparison.
Then please tell me what you went through that was so horrific.
Melissa thought about it before finally nodding. She turned to face the monster next to her, staring into their face. An unnatural tension had filled the air as the two had an impromptu stare down before Melissa spoke. I worked retail. Ugh. Just got flashbacks myself. Truly a terrifying story. If you like this episode, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Because if you don't, I have a best friend that might be paying you a visit very shortly. If you prefer the podcast format, every episode I upload is put on to the Silver Threads podcast, available on most popular podcast platforms. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time with another story.